We're back with a very special guest, Eric Boyce. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, Eric?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kevin, for having me. I appreciate it. So pretty much, I started in the entertainment industry when I was 15. Um, got into the acting industry and then also in the music industry, and then from there, uh, migrated over into corporate America and just started my way up from the bottom. My passion behind doing that was more so was I wanted to learn how to protect talent because growing up in this space, I wasn't protected, and it just drove a passion in me to just want to service other people and have them protected, their value protected. So I started a talent agency, SocialEbs, which was helping content creators in a digital space not only scale higher, but made sure they got paid what they deserved, made sure that they were diversifying their platforms and thinking outside of the box because this is a competitive industry, and just constantly always thinking of ways to push forward. So that's kind of like the short scale of everything that I do. And obviously, I'm always venturing into new career paths, but this is kind of like the foundation of what really like put me on the map.
Absolutely. So, for those that don't know what a social media talent manager does, like what are some of your responsibilities and how do you deal with the talent?
We do a lot from helping out with organizing their event planning, PR, receivables, and most importantly, when you get on the career side, helping them, I guess, take their personality and everything that they do to the next level. A lot of times, talent is kind of like stuck on just being a creative and then also operating the business side. So, a lot of times that can almost conflict with each other because, when a talent is trying to also be, negotiating contracts and looking over deals and everything like that, they're losing out on the creative side and they're not focusing on the creativity. So it's our job to step in and more so be that buffer between them and the brands. Um, I work with mostly beauty and lifestyle clients at the moment. I do plan on scaling into other categories. But for now, that's what SocialEbs kind of like handles. And we do a lot of negotiations with beauty and lifestyle companies such as like, CoverGirl, Ulta Beauty, anything around like that kind of like field. We're kind of like making sure the talent is getting paid accordingly, making sure that the deliverables and what the brand is asking of the talent is in parallel with their brand. We want to make sure that we don't just take on any brand opportunity as well. My business model is always chasing success, not fame, which I think a lot of times in this industry is very easy to get caught up in clout chasing. And unfortunately, clout chasing and fame does not always pay the bills. And I think it's really, really important for talent to always think about ways to stand out from their peers because ever since the TikTok wave came out, there are new content creators being produced left and right, and there are so many for brands to choose from. So you got to ask yourself, what is going to make you uniquely different? And I think it's our job to constantly push the talent in front of the brands and make sure that they see that, with this particular individual, you're not just getting somebody who is popular on social media, but you're actually getting someone who has this really amazing personality. You have somebody who has like charisma and very creative and talented. And then most importantly, the audience is not just a fan base, but they're actually consumers where the the brand can actually see their product living on their platforms. So that's kind of like what we focus on the most. And we try to continue to scale that up by thinking of ways to further the career by thinking outside of the box and always kind of like keeping that push to the forefront.
Got it. So, like, what were some of the wins you were able to get for your clients? Like before they had management, and now you step into the picture. How did their operation change?
I would say education, because even me, I'm constantly like feeding myself with education. I'm the type of person where I don't like to be the smartest in the room, so I'm always pushing myself to get into more circles, to be around people who could add some gems to my life. So I feel like one of the great things that I've done in this industry was I didn't hold information from people. Not only did I share information with my talent, but I also shared it with other managers and other agencies, because I felt like in order to protect the ecosystem of this industry, which is still fairly new, we have to all be on the same page in order to keep the industry flowing. Because if someone comes into the space and they don't have the proper education on what they should be charging a brand, um, usage, likeness, all of those different things, it could then make it harder for someone who's been in the industry a long time and know their value, um, not be able to make money in this industry anymore. So one of the key things that I feel like that I've changed a lot of the talent that work with me or have worked with me in the past is more so I gave them a lot of education. I was always very transparent with them. I always, told them like, okay, I know you want to take this partnership, but maybe we should sit this partnership out because, right now this is like for example, a competitor with this particular brand that you really want to sort after. Um, Making sure that I educated them on how to get brands attention. Brands spend a lot of their time on social media looking for partners who are already using their products. And the miseducation of people on the outside who come in this space, they almost assume that if I have millions of followers on social media, that the brand is automatically going to think that their product can sit well on their platform. But if you don't give the brand any type of um, examples of how the products in that category, let's say they share the same category, let's say I was promoting for a tech company, that tech company would probably want to see, if it's headphones, for example, that I'm talking about, they would probably want to see some previous content that I did prior with another brand that was, a headphone, particular, you know, piece of content. So those are the kind of things that I kind of like teach, and just keep that communication flowing.
So, like, if somebody's starting a podcast like this and they want to get sponsored by a company, they should actually utilize the product on camera beforehand.
Yeah, 100%. Like, look, right now I look like I'm promoting for like a bunch of,
Yeah.
wine and spirit companies, right? Like, so I'll be like, hey, look, I got this right here in the back in
Mm,
case you didn't know what it was. But yes, definitely, you want to almost be core to what you like. Don't just sort after the brands that you think like, oh, they're gonna pay me. Truly
mm.
put the brands in the content that you truly love. And I'm sure if eventually they have a budget, they're going to want to compensate you for the many times that you put their brand in your piece of content. And sometimes you have to start small. It's you buying the products first, showing your appreciation for the brand. And then next is the brand saying, okay, this talent appreciates our products. Let's get them on our PR list so we can now start generating some more content from them in a very organic fashion. And then it's like, okay, we've done that piece. Now we have this campaign that we're coming out with, which is more strategic, where we want a little bit of directive control in mutual fashion. Let's pay them for this piece of content. And that's kind of like how you build the relationship. And I feel like longevity in this space comes with really building out genuine relationships. So, sometimes we do each other favors. It's a two-way street. There's times where I came across brands who didn't have large budgets, and I was able to speak to my talent and say, look, they don't have a large budget right now. I know that this is your value, but let's work with them and see what happens. And then later on, the brand would say, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming in much lower than your normal price quote. But now we actually do have a budget and our brand is doing really well. And we really want to take it up a notch. So definitely for anyone who has a podcast or anyone who's starting a social media account, just remember that, you can't sell funny, right? So you have to figure out a way to put the jokes around the products. And, if you have a podcast, as much intellect you're sharing with the world, remember advertisers is what keeps the lights on. So be creative on how you have those little breaks of different companies that you love. For example, your quality of your camera is amazing. I would want to know, what are you shooting this podcast on? I would want that in the description box. I would want to know what mic you're using. I would want to know, what is your editing software that you use? What's the blue light in the background? Is it Hue products? Is it Google? Like things like that. All of these different things that I feel like are really useful. And sometimes people only focus on the numbers, right? They focus like, I got to get followers. But the worst thing in the world is getting all these followers and then no substance behind the followers, right? You want your followers to be consumers. So when you're ready to launch your own brand, you're already able to scale how well it would do, because you can see kind of like how they respond to other brands' content.
Got it. Yeah, that's definitely very wise advice that I'm sure a lot of people would have no idea about unless they knew somebody like you.
Yeah.
So let's just engage in a hypothetical here. Okay, say for example, I had 100K followers and I came to you, never had management before. What would the process look like of me working with you?
Well, number one, I like to tell people this, and it's like really important. And a lot of people don't like to hear this, but artist development doesn't really exist anymore. And what that means is you should get a manager or an agent when you already worked yourself up to a point where now the business flow of everything is too intimidating, where you've done enough to reach that threshold where now you just need to focus on creativity and you need someone else to come in, take over on the business side, and then bring you to the next level. Because you're testing the waters right now when you're working by yourself. And for someone who's a manager, if they put you up against a talent who is doing those things already and you're not doing those things, and they put you out on a pitch deck and send it off to a client, they're going to go with the person who's already doing those things. And then you're going to have to go back to the talent over here and you're going to have to tell them like, hey, so this is the reason why we couldn't get you the brand deal. And then they're going to be discouraged. And then unfortunately, they're going to think it has something to do with management. But in reality, it's a two-way street. You can only sell something that actually is valuable, right? So back in the day, there's, even with music artists, they used to like get them prepared. They will mold them. They'll give them their image. They'll put them in vocal training and all that stuff. But now, if you think of any A&Rs, they're looking for people who already got music that's in rotation. They're looking for people who is already like hot on the streets right now. So the same thing is in social media. You want to get yourself to a point where you have a consistent amount of brands reaching out, and now you don't know what to do, because now you have a consistency of brands. You managed a couple of brand deals on your own, and you got to see what it was like. You understand it, because you have to understand this business to know what type of manager you want in the first place. Because I can easily tell somebody that I can promise you all these things and I can do this for you. But if you don't know the business and you don't know what type of deals you get or the type of deals that's out there, how do you know if I'm telling the truth? So I think it's always better. And our process is like, if someone reaches out from management and they're interested in working with me, the first thing I do is I educate them on, number one, are you even charging what you should be charging right now? This is what you should be charging. How is your activity on social media? Are you consistently posting every day? What are you posting about? Is your feed just filled with only video content? Is it only picture content? Like if you're on Instagram, are you doing reels and IG story posts? If you're on YouTube, are you doing shorts? If you're on TikTok, are you only on TikTok? And are you diversifying your platform to other platforms where if TikTok was to shut down tomorrow, would you have another platform that your audience can find you on? So these are the type of things that I have, and then I assess it, and then I see if someone is ready to work with me.
So it's pretty important for the person to already kind of have the machine going a little bit, and you come and enhance what's already there, as opposed to you just like creating the artist and molding him. You're more like enhancing what's already there.
You want an effort out of
Mm.
the individual, and that's because we have to look at the reality of how content creators are born. They're usually born right out of their bedrooms. So I need to see if their work effort and work ethic is up to par.
Mm.
If you can't do these simple steps to make your brand stand out, how do I know that within a time period of us working together, you won't give up? When it's rough. Imagine during COVID, a lot of talent was nervous. They were nervous that the brand deals were going to stop. They were afraid that their careers were going to be over. And because a lot of the talent that I worked with at the time was very like work savvy and very much hustlers, they just kept working and they kept giving it their all. And because of that, they were able to still, you know, get brand deals because they didn't stop. And in this culture on the social media side, a lot of them don't go through the hazing process that we had to go through growing up, which was in the entertainment industry of being on set for 8 to 10 hours on a production set, or to get one brand commercial, we had to go on like maybe 10 to 20 auditions in that week just to book one job, where a lot of these talents are being sorted out directly through email and DMs, and they don't have to go through all of that work. So it's more of a way to really see if you're built for this industry. And if you are, that work ethic will show. And then when times are rough, I know that we can grind it out together.
So like what are some of the unforeseen challenges about this industry that a creator may not really know about?
Well, number one, when you come into this space, it's still entertainment, meaning everything
Mm.
is on a commission based
Mm.
system. So you may come out of a 9 to 5 where everything is consistent. You get paid every week, you get paid maybe every 2 weeks, or maybe on the first and on the 15th. But in this industry, it's not like that. So I would tell content creators to not quit their foundation right away when they get their first big brand deal or they get a couple brand deals. They need to base it out over a period of time to learn the different curves in the industry. There's some slow months, there's some busy months, but if you jump right into this full throttle from the beginning, there may be moments where you might get burned out before your timing comes. And then you may never get the opportunity to really be successful in this industry. So definitely some advice I would give to content creators coming into the space is take your time and be patient and just continue to create content, because legitimately it can happen overnight where a brand reshares your content and goes viral, and then you don't want your content going viral and then they go back to your platform and then there's nothing else there but that viral video. You want them to have something to say wow, and it's keeping them there, like this person's very talented. So you should always be making content with the mind frame that this is your platform, this is your feed, where you're, regardless if you get a brand deal or not, that moment that something big happens and a whole bunch of people come to your platform, how are you going to keep them engaged?
Absolutely. So you mentioned to me earlier, like there's a lot of people who selling courses on how to grow fast, or these tips and tricks to hack the algorithm, but really, that doesn't really exist, right? It's more about being consistent.
I would say don't get scammed out here by people telling you like, hey, I can pay for verification, or I can pay to grow your following, or a lot of that stuff is just going to send bots your way, and Instagram or whichever platform it is going to eventually find out and either, you know, remove your account for spam, or the best way I could put it is, if you're doing anything to kind of like hack the system in a negative way, meaning like, it's one thing to hack the system in an organic way where it's like you figured out the key to like organic growth, or like key to marketing, right? Like that's different. Like figuring out the key to marketing is like a good hack. The bad hacks is more so when it's like you have a huge amount of followers, but your audience retention rate is so low because the majority of them are like bots. So you
Mm.
got to ask yourself, how do you translate that to dollars? If you're going on your platform and you know you're speaking to pretty much a small percentage of people who are real, then a brand is going to be unhappy when you do a partnership, because when they do the analytics on the program, they're going to say, well, this didn't perform as well, so now we're not going to come back and work with you. So if you're thinking long term and you're not just thinking of cloud, and you're thinking about stability in this industry, it's really important that you try to grow your platform organically. And the way you do that is, you got talent has to get back into collaborating more. Like, it's important that everyone collaborates, go to events, do FaceTime, try to get in editorial content, figure out which editorials are attached to your industry. If you're in beauty, it will be like a Refinery 29. If you're in tech, it'll be like a different platform. But learn these things, really dive in deep into your industry and learn all of the different tools that you can use to grow your platform organically. And then also, what I usually tell people that helps with growing their platform is, don't be one sound. We are a talent at the end of the day, right? So let's say if I'm this person who does a lot of reviews on, let's say, laptops and different computer software. Um, I'm also a human being at the end of the day. So what are some things outside of the off the camera that I believe in? What's my culture? What do I represent? My nationality? All of these things that you can attach to, where it'll all come back full circle, and then you start having a story, because people only care about the story. When someone is not making money, or things are not working out for them, it's going to go back to what they stand for. So definitely, I would say, full around, just try to spread your brand as much as you can, and also don't be afraid to be raw.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah. I like the point you made about not quitting your job immediately, and having a backup, because the money may not be consistent. So you don't want to be in a position of desperation where you're having to accept deals you don't really want, or do
Yeah.
things that you don't really want to do. Have you heard any horror stories of people who were like forced to take desperate measures because they didn't have any income?
I mean, I've heard many stories of talent in the space taking these deals that pretty much go against their brand completely, because they only had this solely to depend on, and because of that, you know it's hard to get out of that desperation, because now that's the only way you're making money. And what happens is, brands see you associated with that particular, let's say, brand that is not necessarily a great fit for your image. And then what happens is, those larger brands don't want nothing to do with you anymore, and that becomes like the basis of your content now moving forward. So yeah, there are tons of stories that happen within this industry, And that's the reason why I try to tell talent when they get a couple brand deals, like chill out, relax, definitely take your time. Don't change your living means too early. Like, imagine like you're young, a brand gives you your first big contract, and the first thing you want to do is you want to go shopping, you want to go here, you want to do all these things. It's really important to be wise because once again, this industry is forever changing, and in order to learn how the industry works, you have to really like be well gelled in it for a while. But then when you build up that consistency to the point where there's brand deals coming in left and right, now you can then take the capital from those brand deals and then invest it into your own business and then start growing your own product or your own um, movement, and then you have even more stability over your future because now you're not just depending on brand deals to make it in this industry.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. Like about the brands kind of being an extension of who you are and what you represent. And if you
Yeah,
have the wrong brands attached to your name, it's
yeah,
going to limit your opportunities.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
how do you coach somebody who's starting to get brand deals, and how do you make sure that it's consistent with the image you're trying to put out?
Well, everyone knows their image, right? So the
Hmm.
first thing you got to ask yourself is, what do you want to be known for? That's number one. And then number two, you have to say to yourself, how difficult do you want to be from the beginning, right? Because in the beginning, a brand is not going to give you everything that you ask for. So it's a happy medium. It's like I said, it's a relationship. And you have to be wise enough to know that even though you may think your value is up here, right now, there are millions of people who are out there giving brands content. So the most important thing is setting yourself up to get that FaceTime with them. And the only way you could do that is sometimes you take that one low deal or you take that one little opportunity where they didn't have much and you show them what you can do through that opportunity. And from there you scale up. That's really important. And you're able to gauge based on the incoming deals that are coming in what different companies are paying. So then it makes you more knowledgeable where if this particular brand approaches you, for all of this time period, they always had this particular budget. So most likely you'll be wasting your time getting upset and emotionally disturbed because you think they don't value you. It's just their marketing budget for social media has just never been that high. Some companies put more into media and traditional media budgets like television programming and stuff like that, maybe through like Hulu, Netflix, maybe sometimes through like Google AdSense. But there's a lot of companies who don't put their whole marketing budget into social media influencers. And the only way to start learning that is by seeing the trends.
Absolutely. So, like once somebody starts blowing up, they're going to have opportunities to jump in other lanes, maybe like acting or,
Yeah.
something similar like that. Do you recommend that they take those opportunities or really just stay focused on what got them to this point?
I think there's nothing wrong with diversifying your brand. You just have to remember that each category is separate. So you have to make sure when you're going in on the acting side, obviously there are going to be times where they're not going to respect your value where you're at on the digital side. But the moment you start earning that respect on the acting side, you got to remember and to remind everyone that my social media, this is what my fee is on this side, and somehow find a happy medium to make it work all together. Because that's what was happening in the space with celebrities already have their foundation income through, let's say, acting or sports, right? Or wherever it is. And they're artists, they're performing on stage. But when they come on the digital side, it's like, well, I'm already getting paid over here, so I can take this low deal. For me, it doesn't matter. And what that does is it really messes up the ecosystem because they're content creators that do this for a living and nothing else. and their rates are much higher. And a brand may see the difference, and they'll say, well, this content creator at 1 million followers is charging us this amount of money, and then the celebrity with 1 million followers is charging us less. Well, we might as well go with the celebrity. You know what I mean? So it's important that both industries talk together, so everyone is helping out each other, because content creators really do have like a really strong hold on their community. And it's not just an endorsement, it's like the person next door telling you what they genuinely love. And those are the ones that are truly legitimate about what they're saying. I can only speak for the ones that I represent.
Absolutely. So, this is really good advice because I know there's a lot of people who may want to start getting into, social media and things of that nature. And,
Yeah,
the point you made about saving your money, not spending it all because the money comes in like, sporadically.
yeah.
That's important to protect them. Is there any other advice you have to, so they avoid the pitfalls of the industry or just life in general?
At a certain point, even with management or an agency, you need to start building up your internal team. So it's really important that when talent are moving through this industry, they reinvest back into themselves. That means whatever is going to take, whatever amount of money is going to take to make you just completely stress free and able to focus on creating, it's worth the investment. That means making sure everyone has an attorney. An attorney is necessary. A manager only looks uh, only negotiates and handles the protection of usage and likeness, and making sure that you got the right deliverables and that the partnership is aligned to the brand, and making sure the dollar amount is good. But legal is able to come in and make sure the legal language, the verbiage in the contract, is going to protect you from possibly your image being on a billboard somewhere. Or let's say there are pay or play clauses where, a brand just wants to pull out, from the deal. Let's say COVID hit. It's like, no, we want to pull out. It's like there's certain clauses that protect you where you can still get paid. So these are all things that people kind of like push under the rug up until something bad happens. And I feel like it's 2023. We're a bit educated now. We could definitely like protect ourselves much earlier than waiting until something happens. So for sure, um, building up your team, reinvesting back into yourself so you can continue to be creative. That's the reason why, you're in this space, is because you're a creative. And in order to be a great creative, you have to start building up your team. Think about entertainers, even like singers. Some of them don't have the time to write lyrics anymore. They just need a song that's ready to go. So they start getting their writers and their producers. And imagine if you were just doing everything on your own, it will be a lot. So that's some of the ways to avoid like a pitfall.
Absolutely.
My
What are
life
some
is
of
changing, so
what are some of the team members they need? You mentioned lawyers. What they need, accountants, or what are
like
some of the
like
team?
make sure you get an attorney, make sure you get a CPA, make sure you, if you need, not everyone needs this, but if you need an assistant to help out with shooting content for you and helping you out with that, um, a video editor if you do like high production. Some content creators like to have full control over those processes, but then there are some who are just not that good at it. Those are like the basics of what I would say you would need to like have a solid team. And then obviously management as well.
So, you hear stories about people who, they make a lot of money. They get a financial manager, then the manager kind of swindle, or the accountant, and they get swindled out of their money. Do you know how to protect yourself from that situation?
Where with repeat it again?
Okay, so there's a lot of stories of people who, they've earned millions of dollars. So Tim Duncan, for example, um, and it's later reported that his accountant stole millions from him. So, like, how do you avoid, that kind of situation happening? What are we to
Well,
look at?
that's it goes back to my point earlier. You don't run to management agency or anybody until you understand the business, and then you know what you want. I'm not telling people to sign off to a manager and stop being a business professional. What I'm saying is you are business savvy enough to know that now you can pass this task over to someone else or a team to handle it. So a lot of times that's because there was no business education and they were just being creative on the court and never took the steps to learn about business. So never checked on those things, never received reports or anything like that. So I think it's really important to learn the industry that you're in so you know exactly what type of person to choose to be your accountant or attorney, because you know the industry. You're most likely going to hopefully choose someone that's going to do you right in the space. And if they don't, you're going to be knowledgeable enough to know that, okay, this is a red flag, because when I was doing this on my own, this wasn't happening. You know what I mean? So it's like things like that that I think are really important.
Yeah, that's definitely a great point. You don't ever want to give full control over to somebody else and not have oversight, because that's when people come in and steal.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, man, I know you've been looking into the tech space. Can you tell us a little bit about, what caused you to really want to enter the tech space?
Well, everyone knows big data is like the new wave, and it's going to be basically the new currency of today and tomorrow. And the first party economy is something that is really huge because right now, even with you know social media platforms, when you do a brand sponsorship, they can still somewhat limit the reach of who's seeing your content because they have control over the algorithm. So you also have to put paid boosting behind that particular piece of content. So I think one thing that's really, really important is that if the first party economy actually steps in and it actually works out for us, which it will, it's basically doing the deal directly with the brand is going to basically be able to approach the talent, and then in real time they could basically um, in real time be able to facilitate whatever that dollar figure amount is, and someone could get paid for their value. Because when you walk into a store and you swipe your credit card and you never gave them your email address before, they're able to market to you now, and they're using that data. Okay, he brought all of these things, and they're able to use that and sell it against you, and you have no payment for it. So I think we're moving down a place where it's going to be up to the community to opt in on their data usage. Like, do I want them to use my data? And if I do, then I need to be compensated for it. So that's the reason why I think the tech space is so intriguing. And especially because everything is moving towards tech, everything's becoming electrical, data focused. If you ask any brand, if you're doing a partnership, all they care about is like data. They want to know, like, okay, who is it going to reach? What type of demographic? Um, can I put this product out there, and is it going to reach these types of people? So data really is the future.
Yeah, I agree. Data is pretty much the new gold. It's even more important than money, because if you could predict what people are going to do next, you pretty much, you can largely influence
Yeah,
their decision.
100%, 100%, definitely.
So what do you think about technological advances like Chat GPT and other AI?
I just think it's important that we get in front of AI before AI is in front of us. I
Mm.
feel like it needs to be a fair trade of us, working in conjunction with AI, but never AI steps ahead of us. I don't want to be shut off one day. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the things that is happening is very interesting and cool and innovative. I just think that we should not take the back seat, and we still need to be creative, because remember, we're the ones with the emotion, with the personality, and the creative backing that created these things. So why should we allow it to just run us completely, you know?
Exactly. This chat GPT is so powerful. People are generating articles and all other sorts of content with it. Is To me, it's
Yeah.
going to come to a point where, we're not even interacting with humans. We're just interacting with products produced from an AI. So I agree that, we need to maintain our creativity. Um, and on another angle, Elon Musk and Bill Gates both said AI is probably the most potentially dangerous thing to humanity, even more dangerous than nuclear weapons. Do you agree or disagree with that statement?
I think they make a valuable point if it's not controlled properly, for sure. Um, like if I had something in front of me that was not a computer base and I wanted it to work, it was dependent on my hands fixing it, right? But if my computer crashes and the screen won't come on, it just decides not to come on. It happened to me before. It's nothing you could do about it. So when you think about where the world is going, where everything is becoming technical and um, AI focused, even the fact that AI now only needs to hear 3 seconds of your voice and it can emulate it,
Yeah.
um, that's taking prank calls to the next level, you know? Um, and if AI is able to, mask voice recognition, I mean, just imagine what it can do in the future, So I definitely agree that it could be extremely dangerous if it's not handled with care.
And taking this back to the content creation point, like you mentioned, you can take a Tupac, 3-second clip, and then the AI can recreate a song with his voice, but completely different lyrics. Do you feel like content creators really need to start thinking about that? Like somebody taking their likeness and then remixing it into something else using AI, whether it be companies or some unscrupulous individual.
Well, I think if they have good management and a good legal representation, if AI started doing that from whatever entity, that would be a major lawsuit, because they would already have those protections in a contract. But it is something scary, to think about. Um, but right now, I feel like we're so far away from that, because I think AI's focus is more into like other things versus like content creators. But still, at the same time, I think what's really important is fixing what is happening, for example, within the platforms where someone's account is getting removed off of Instagram or TikTok for no reason, because it's saying that, oh, it found some type of like, violation, but it's the AI making a mistake because of a particular piece of content that the content creator put up. So I feel like there's a lot of bugs right now within the AI system. And because of that, I feel like there always needs to be someone or some team monitoring it in the background to step in and say, okay, like this is wrong. Like we need to fix this, so that way it's never just AI running wild and us kind of like adhering to the movement.
Absolutely. I think that's all the questions I got for now, man. Do you have any closing thoughts?
The only thing I would say is anybody out there who's trying to get into content creation, social media, just remember that when COVID hit, there was a lot of mom and pop companies that got destroyed because they were like, oh, I don't need social media. And believe it or not, gift cards and QR codes saved a lot of businesses. So when you think digital forward, it's another way to monetize your business. So even though like everyone has their way of making money, social media is going to be around for a very long time. It is the future. It is the right now, and um, do whatever you can to like learn this space and diversify your brand from just being transitional from customers coming, let's say, directly off the street to like being able to service customers in other places around the world. I would definitely leave off with that. If you're not socially active with your businesses, try to figure out a way to bridge the gap.
Absolutely. And if somebody wanted to reach out to you, where can they reach you at?
Info@socialebs.com.
All right, man. I definitely appreciate you for coming through. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace.